TESOL Trainers. We are your scaffold to success.
Hi, folks. I'm Dr. John Kongsvik. I'm the director of TESOL Trainers. We're education consultants. We work with K12 schools all over the world that serve English language learners. And today I'm here to talk to you about one of the most critical skills any educator can develop to the hilt: the skill of scaffolding both the design and the delivery of a lesson. And in this brief presentation, I'd like to share with you, number one, what scaffolding is. Number two, why you should probably be doing it a little more than you are. And number three, how it should really look in the classroom. So what is scaffolding? Well, scaffolding is going through a lesson in a step by step fashion. And in order not to give a learner indigestion while they're learning, we want to break the lesson into small, digestible chunks. And there are three reasons why every educator should be scaffolding a lesson more often and in smaller chunks normally than they are. The first reason is this right here. The more I scaffold a lesson, the more my students develop confidence and competence. The second reason that scaffolding is a real good idea is if a lesson is really well scaffolded, it's much easier for me as a teacher to determine where my students' needs are, and it's much easier for me to differentiate on the fly. The third reason that scaffolding can be really beneficial to me as an educator is, contrary to popular belief, the smaller the chunk and the more a lesson is scaffolded, the quicker the learning goes, not the other way around. So when you look at scaffolding, and when you ask K12 teachers about scaffolding, and in fact, the gradual release of responsibility is probably one of the most well-known means of scaffolding in K12 schools. And just let me say that word again and pay attention to that first word. We'll get back to what that word is and why it's the critical component of all of scaffolding: the gradual release of responsibility. So when you talk about the gradual release responsibility and you query 1,000 teachers, 999 of them are going to say, oh yes, the gradual release responsibility, that's the I do, we do, you do. Folks, that is not really the gradual release of responsibility. And that's not really a well-scaffolded lesson. Let's compare how most teachers consider scaffolding, 3 steps, to the original 4 stages in the gradual release responsibility. The gradual release responsibility goes like this. Step 1, teacher does, students watch. Step 2, teacher does, students help. Step 3, students do, teacher helps. Step 4, students do, teacher watches. So there's 4 steps to the original gradual release responsibility, 3 steps to most people's definition of scaffolding. There is a difference between the two. Now, regardless of how you get to stage 1, watch why the 4-step process sets students up for success and the teacher, and how the 3rd-step process usually results in less confidence and less competence. And let me give you an example of, let's say, a math class. So this can be an inquiry-based class. That might be step 0. And I give my students a task and I ask them to, we have this problem, and get into groups and figure out what we're going to do. And, some people have it and some people don't. And at some point, I call everybody back together. I get the data from them, and I've got this set of steps on the board. And like any effective teacher, I'm going to walk them through and show them how to do one problem. That's the I do over here, or the teacher does, students watch over here. I'm going to do a think aloud. That's a metacognitive tool that everybody knows is a real effective means of setting all students up for success, whether you're 5, 15, or 55. It also helps me kind of see where students are and who might need some of my support a little ways down the road. So after I do 1 or 2 problems and say, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? I move on to step 2. In most people's minds, this is the we do stage. The gradual release responsibility calls that the teacher does, students help stage. And folks, there are effective and ineffective means of going about this. The ineffective way of me doing this is calling one student up and getting one student to do it. What's ineffective about that? Number one, if that student knows how to do it, that's helping them build that muscle. But let's be honest, most other students aren't paying attention. And if that student isn't feeling rather confident or rather competent about doing it, it drags on. I'm losing the engagement of 90% of the other students in my class, and I'm putting this student on the spot. So the teacher does, students help, or the we do. It's not teacher and one student, it's we as a class. So how this in my math class might look is I say, okay, class, get out your whiteboards, or together, let's do this as a team. And now there's 1,001 ways to kneel and kiss the ground, folks. I've seen some really powerful math teachers do this in some amazing ways that I don't have time to cover right now. But as a whole class, we're going to cover a couple of these, and I want my students to develop a little competence and competence. I'm not going to wait until everybody's a master before I go from stage 2 to stage 3. That's not the purpose of scaffolding. But I'm going to wait until they get a little confidence and a little competence, and then I'm going to stage 3. Now, stage 3 over here, in most people's definition, is the independent stage. They're going right from the let's do it as a class to you do it on your own. That's a huge jump. Now, remember in the beginning I said, pay attention to the definition or the term, the gradual release of responsibility. It's not called the rapid release of responsibility. It's called the gradual release of responsibility. Stage 3 over here is the students do, teacher helps. This is the you do with your peers stage. At this stage 3, it's not the independent stage. It's the teacher's going to put you in groups, and together you're going to do a few to develop a little more confidence and a little more competence. Every effective teacher knows, number 1, students learn way more from one another than they do their teachers. And number 2, the only way I'm going to bring everybody with me is to find a way to get my students working in groups and working together well enough to free me up as a teacher so I can work with these 2 students for a couple of minutes, call these 4 students over and help them over here, call these guys over and help them over here. That's what effective teachers do, teachers. So, folks, 1,001 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. However it looks, I'm going to put my students into groups. I'm going to say, do these 4 or 5 math problems. It might be person A do this, person B do this, person C do this, or together do this and do it this way. Again, there's 1,000 different ways to do it. I've seen Some really effective math teachers do some really incredible things. But the whole point of that stage 3 is to help our students develop even more confidence and even more competence in solving these math problems. And then we reach stage 4, which is students do teacher watches. My hands come off their bicycle seats and I see if they can ride their bikes on their own. I say, flip those papers over, go onto that smart board. Look, here are these 2 problems, do them by yourselves. And now most of my students, maybe not everyone, but most of my students have developed enough confidence and enough competence where they feel ready to ride those bikes on their own, and they feel ready to do those problems because not only do they want to show me that they can do them by themselves, but they want to see if they can do them by themselves as well. So teachers, that's the gradual release of responsibility. It's got 4 stages, not 3. And if you do it the way the original process of scaffolding was set up, you'll see that more students succeed than not. If I only use these 3 stages, what I uncover every single time is the kids that could at the beginning show me they still can at the end, and the kids that couldn't at the beginning show me they still can't. When's it ever been different? Folks, scaffolding is a really powerful tool. And if you want to learn more about scaffolding, including how to micro scaffold and how to manage scaffolding using this really killer tool we call Step In, Step Out while you're teaching, you ought to check out our on-site and online professional development. Go to www.TESOLTrainers.com. My name is Dr. John Kongsvik. I'm the director. I would love to share with you how we can help you take teaching and learning to the next level at your school. We are TESOL Trainers, and we are your scaffold to success.
TESOL Trainers. We are your scaffold to success.